All right, we are going to start chapter 3 on stress and how to manage stress. So we need to first start out by defining stress. And we're going to look really closely at what happens with the stress response of our bodies. But stress is really just that. It's the response that we have. It's the mental and physical response and adaptations that our bodies go through to real or perceived threats. And a stressor is any physical, social, psychological event or any type of stimuli that would cause our bodies to react. So it's upsetting our homeostasis, which is another word for just that normal balance that we have. And then it induces this stress response by our body. And I like the key word here, perceived, because sometimes it is just that, is our perception that really determines how stressful of an event something is. So now we're going to look at the categories of stress. So eustress is positive stress. It presents opportunities for growth, like getting married, going on that first date, winning a major competition. Those are all ones that the book has mentioned. I think like even just planning for college next year, it's stressful, but it's exciting. There's a lot of room for growth. Distress is any negative stress that can have a detrimental effect on your health. So there might not be that positive or personal aspect to it. That's that personal growth aspect. Acute stress is short-term stress. So it's something that's happening right at that moment, but it's temporary. It's going to go away. When we talk about this episodic acute stress, this is when someone reacts very wildly to these minor things. We kind of call them like the constant complainers. It's like the everyday things, and they're always basically complaining about them. Chronic stress is an ongoing state of physiological arousal in response to ongoing or numerous threats. So this is the stress that is the most concerning because it can cause long-term health problems. It could be a career that, just every day, that particular job, it's just wearing on you. It's just a very stressful job. It could be financial issues going on. It's just not going away. It's not an acute stress where it's just like, oh, I have this one bill. It is just, overwhelming. Traumatic stress is physiological, again, which is physical, and mental response that occurs when you have kind of that it's for a prolonged time after a major trauma, a major stressful event. And potentially this could lead to PTSD, which we talked about already. So what is homeostasis? This is our physical state where all the systems are functioning smoothly and our stress levels are low. So everything is just normal, in normal mode. Stress triggers a change in that. It's telling our body that we need to respond. And so after that, our body's trying to get back to homeostasis by this means called adaptive response. So we're going to look at this model of what is going on. And this is called the General Adaptation Syndrome, or GAS, G-A-S, and you watched a little video on this. So here you can see the first stage is the alarm stage, and then the resistance stage where we are trying to kind of resist, and then exhaustion, we are just depleted. So our resistance goes actually even below normal. So the first thing you're going to feel is this like fight or flight response. And this is the cerebral cortex has triggered the autonomic nervous system to prepare you for action. And this is the first stage, which is the alarm phase. So a little more about the autonomic nervous system, or ANS. This is basically regulating bodily functions that we do not normally consciously control. Heart, glandular functions, breathing. And there's two branches to this, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is in charge of energizing. So everything that it does is you're going to see things that they're increasing. They're just really getting us ready for that fight or flight. They're stimulating us. They're energizing us. The parasympathetic is slowing down systems that are stimulated by the stress response. So we're going to look at kind of how this works. And the book has this picture on page 74 if you want to write that in your notes. But you can see here that some of the systems and the organs, we see an increase in function, while some we see a decrease. For example, our hearing ability increases, but our saliva is being decreased. The production is being decreased. So some things are increasing. That is the sympathetic nervous system working, and then the parasympathetic is doing the decreasing. The hypothalamus functions as the control center of the sympathetic nervous system. So what it does is it stimulates the adrenal glands to release epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline. It causes more blood to be pumped, dilates the airways, so we can get more air in, more oxygen, increased breathing rate, and now we have more glucose being released from the liver, glucose we need for that quick energy. This is all going to help us with that fight or flight, and it's also going to cause the pituitary gland to release HLTH, a hormone which in turn causes the release of cortisol. Why do we need cortisol? You always hear about cortisol when you hear about stress. This causes more stored nutrients to be released to meet the energy demands. And then endorphins are also being released as a pain reliever. In case we are in a fight, we're not going to feel as much pain. Next, we go into the second stage, which is the resistance. Now, during resistance, the big thing to note right here is our body is trying to go back to homeostasis. We are kind of out of that initial fight or flight, but yet there still might be some stressor that exists. So we do not get complete calm or complete rest. We're still kind of activated. There's still a higher metabolic rate in some of the tissues. And next we are at the exhaustion phase. And this occurs when the physical and emotional energy used to fight the stressor has now been depleted. And prolonged efforts to adapt to stress may lead to what is called allostatic load, which is exhaustive wear and tear on the body, where we just are constantly ending up in this phase, and it's just a lot of wear and tear. So continual release of cortisol and other hormones can reduce immunocompetence, which is the ability of the body to protect you, not even just against infectious diseases, but even protect you against chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease, because we have things that our immune system does to actually help protect us against chronic disease also. So there's common symptoms of physical stress, and you can kind of see this picture in the book, and I believe this one's on page 75. But we don't just take the mental toll. There is a lot of physical symptoms that occur. Our skin can break out. We may have grinding teeth at night, jaw pain because of that. We may have stiffness in the neck and back. We may have just problems with our heart rate, tightness in the chest, stomach aches, diarrhea. We may have cold hands, tremors. But that's not it. There's a lot of chronic problems that can occur when we have a lifetime building up of stress. So you can use your collaborative chart for the notes for this, but we have increased risk of heart attack and stroke. It's one of the number one reasons that we have heart attacks. We have higher cortisol levels may increase weight gain. There's definitely some studies right now showing that there's a certain stress hormone that may put us at a higher risk of alcohol dependence. Too much stress can lead to thinning hair and hair loss to the point of baldness, even in women. For diabetes, we just, again, going back to that weight gain, that leads us to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. We have known for a while that certain digestive issues are triggered by stress. So that's another issue. And also immune system. Again, we talked about that in the previous slide, that there are a lot of issues that could happen with the immune system because of too much stress. When we look at intellectual ability, we see memory problems. We see verbal memory, short-term memory, concentration, all of those. And when we look at brain scans, we see people that are very stressed out. We actually see changes to the hippocampus, where it's shrinking. We have higher rates of mental disorders with people that have higher environmental stressors. And we also know that stress is a major trigger for migraines and headaches.